Yeah, yeah. And I burned that channel. Sinister grifters with a snake oil grin. Voracious virtue signalers cashing in. False PIs, they're fixing the game. Pointing fingers, but they're all the same. Innocent creators, moms with a cause. Digging through the chaos, exposing the flaws. We're hunting for clues, untwisting the lies. Who's driving this shit show straight to demise? Convertibles roaring, cliffs in sight. Like Thelma and Louise on a forever ride. They sail into YouTube fame, the crash is in sight. We're all on the ride, no brakes, no trust. Popularity is the spark that'll burn their channels into dust. Or it'll burn their channels into dust. Dust. Spark that'll burn their channels into dust. Spark that'll burn their channels into dust. Dust. It's in the dust. That'll burn their channels. It's in the dust. That'll burn their channels. What's in the dust? The dust. The dust. The dust.
Hi, folks. I hope you guys are all doing wonderful this morning. It is great to see you. I know the Karen Reed case, the trial is going to be getting started. I'm also deep into it, and what a disaster for the prosecution, for the Commonwealth. You know what? It's just another example where, you F around, you find out, right? When you start believing that you are smarter than anyone else and that you can manipulate people and you can control them, you can make them think things that are not real, you're going to find out. And unfortunately for Katie and Chris, I think that is exactly what happened on their appearance the other night with America's Most Wanted missing, right? I think there was just, for those of us that analyze human behavior, I do testing and evaluation for different reasons, maybe forensic, maybe forensic, maybe medical, maybe education, depending on what's happening. But overall, if you are a student of human behavior and analysis, the America's Most Wanted appearance was a train wreck for Chris and Katie Proudfoot. I believe that in my heart. Now, the last 3 interviews that Katie has done, things look very strange between the two of them. Chris looks like he is living in misery. Katie appears to be thriving. And after the America's Most Wanted appearance, I'm certain that they are split up. And this may explain why Chris had that horrible meltdown last week sometime where it was like he had this personal vendetta against allegedly with Brittany J. The way he attacked her was like, that's the kind of thing that you see if there's infidelity in a 30-year marriage, that level of hate and animosity. It was so personal against Brittany J. It was really an odd thing to watch. But Katie's doing great. She just came off of the year of first, and she is doing super. So I want to go back through, and I am going to show clutch them pearls. Yeah. We are going to do, this is Justin's channel, Justin for All, and clutch them pearls. I myself am actually wearing my pearls today. Today I'm wearing a Tahitian gray pearl, a string of pearls, but they are Tahitian gray. And so let's go ahead, and I'm just going to play this through and do a reaction video. I did a little tiny bit, I think last night. I did like to put that on members only. The reason that I put it on members only is because there is some music that was written that someone else is going to license, or they have licensed it. And so just to keep things nice and clean legally, that's on members only. I have some control over that. I don't have control over public videos. So let's just do a reaction video to the whole thing. I think there's plenty of evidence of guilty knowledge, as Deception Detective says. And I think things look real bad. I think we're beginning to wind down, and I think it won't be long before we see an arrest will be made. And I want to remind everyone, that Katie and Chris, this is not their first appearance on a national platform. They actually went on Fox and Friends. It was a very short little appearance. Katie does appeal during that interview, please help us find our son. But in a very curious manner, the only pictures and videos that they brought were pictures and videos of Sebastian as an elementary school age kid. Now, if you are an investigator, what does that say? What does that tell you? It tells me they're not looking for Sebastian. They're not looking for a 15-year-old boy on the autistic spectrum. That is not what they're looking for. They just wanted to show some photographs of themselves being good parents to a cute little kid. Same thing with the videos that were released to J is for Justice, who released them on Twitter. Strangely, Chris teaching Sebastian how to ride a bike, or Chris teaching Sebastian to use a backhoe or a bobcat or something, had nothing to do with what Sebastian looks like today in 2024, 2025, had everything to do with manipulation of a potential jury pool that says, hey, look, I was a really good guy. I would never hurt him. But never forget Chris Watts, okay? We had videos of Chris Watts, what I think was genuine enjoyment, rolling around on the floor with his little girls, doing push-ups with the baby sitting on his back, playing a game where he was getting, shaving cream in his face. Chris Watts seemed to genuinely enjoy time with his children. And yet, when he spent time with a mistress who I think was, manipulating him with crazy monkey sex, he got messed up. Because I do think he's got some serious problems too. But yeah, Chris, you can put out all the photographs and videos that you and Katie want to put out showing, look what good mommies and daddies we were. Look at what a good mommy I am. I took my son to Texas Roadhouse. And then I took a photograph of his food so I could send it to the stepdad, Mr. Chris Sir. For what? She said it. To show how much he ate. Christopher Proudfoot has to control every single aspect of anything that he takes an interest in, including YouTube creators. I actually did get directed that I wasn't allowed to make any YouTube videos about Sebastian. I wasn't allowed to talk about Sebastian. I wasn't allowed. So I said, okay, you can be the boss. I'll just make all my videos about Christopher. Until the last 3 videos or interviews where Katie appears. And things are looking really, really bad. Katie, you have been thriving, girl. This past year has been such a good thing for you. You are looking good.
The next morning, Sebastian was gone.
Here we go, y'all.
Hey, Missing Juvenile. We are right now, 3 blonde hair, approximately 5 foot, I'm going to turn down. I was going to be wearing a black sweatshirt, black sweatpants. You know, those type of criminal causism.
Sebastian is tall and skinny, has a contagious smile, loves video games, loves cats.
Okay. Sebastian is tall and skinny. What's this picture? I want everybody to tell me, is this a tall, skinny kid? Look at Katie, who is standing next to him. Look at her hand, her pants. Is this a photograph of Sebastian last year when he went missing? Or is this a photograph of an elementary school age kid? If you think this is a picture of Sebastian as a 15-year-old, put a 1. If you think this is a picture of Sebastian as an elementary school age kid, probably 5th grade, maybe 4th grade, put a 2. Exactly, Lisa Faulkner. Lisa said 10, 11, that's 5th grade. Thank you, Lisa. Yep, that's right. Why? Why do this? Katie, why do this? You are not searching for your 15-year-old son. You are not. There are photographs of Sebastian as a 15-year-old. You have the Texas Roadhouse video that you could get a still image from. I did it. I got a still image that shows his face and he's smiling, looking up at the waitress. Why are you using those? If you stopped taking photographs of your child because Mr. Chris Sir hated him, then at least use the Texas Roadhouse video. At least show a picture of Sebastian walking to your car when Melissa comes walking up in between the 2 cars. At least do that. At least show everyone, hey, this is what my son looked like the day he went missing. This is how tall he is. This is what his face looks like. These are the current glasses that he wears. You're not, Katie, you are not looking for a 15-year-old kid. And the rest of you, Pluminati, Queen Bee, the rest of you, why aren't you commenting on this? Katie and Chris are your friends. Why aren't you asking them, hey, why aren't you putting pictures out of what Sebastian actually looked like when he went missing? Give it some thought. Give it some thought.
Has a contagious smile, loves video games, loves cats.
Boundless amounts of energy. Sebastian reminds me of a deer prancing through the woods, you know, enjoying the smell, the breeze.
I'm going to ask the same question that I asked previously. Is this the same young man that is featured on the Texas Roadhouse video? If they go on TV and say, this is who we're looking for, is this the little boy you're going to be looking for? Or will you see a 5'5" tall young man going through puberty with an Adam's apple, hands in his pockets everywhere he walks, and you're going to say, hey, I think that's the little Rogers kid they've been looking for. You know, the one with blonde hair and the kitty cat in his lap. Katie, why would you put this picture out, chick? Why would you do that? Are you looking for Sebastian Rogers? These photographs tell me no. In fact, that cat that you smile, your eyes sparkling, talking about how much he loves cats at the top of his list, but you made this child give up those cats and replace them with Mr. Chris, sir. The most angry, aggressive, explosive person that I've witnessed in a long time. A man that will publicly go on a public platform and rage and scream and yell about acts of pedophilia, inciting others to self-harm, and enticing gang assault against a female YouTube creator that he doesn't know. You see a happy little face, Katie. You took that cat away, the cat that you say this is his favorite, this Sebastian's favorite are cats. You took those two cats away from this boy and you replaced it with a man who is willing to go on a public platform and scream about gang assault against a YouTube creator, a female he's never met. What are you doing, Katie? Sitting there in front of a camera, your little eyes sparkling, you smiling from ear to ear. Oh, cats are his favorite. He loves kitty cats. When he was 8, 9, 10 years old. Actually, I think technically it was 7, but just using the benefit of the doubt here. You realize, Katie, that in the year 2024, you had a young man. Your child was a young man. He was not a third or fourth grade little kid with 2 cats. You realize that, right? This is indicative of a woman who is going into the spotlight to prove what a great mom she is. And I want to point something out in terms of human behavior with this little boy. This is probably when he was around 8 years old, right? 7, 8 years old. Before Mr. Crisser and his little allergies. I'm allergic to kitty cats. I'm allergic, and I was so scared of shots. You know, Chris, you could have just had a shot, and then your stupid allergies for a cat wouldn't have affected Sebastian. You're a grown-ass man. You're Mr. Tough Guy, right? You make this little boy get rid of the two things that just brought him so much joy. His mom just said his favorite were cats. You force him to get rid of that because you don't want to sneeze. Go take a damn shot. Get on nasal crom. It's just a little squirty thing. You stick it in your left nostril and sniff, and you stick it in your right nostril and sniff. You know, kind of like some of the, well, you know. But I want to draw attention to this little boy here, okay? This kid who was not diagnosed with autism until he was what? 14, 15 years old, right? Does he appear to be detached? Does this little boy, his body language, does he look like he is internally focused? Yeah, he doesn't to me either. There's a lot of signs there. Number one, he's looking directly at the camera or his mom. Directly. With a huge, wide open, welcoming smile. I'll tell you what that means for someone who analyzes behavior. He is having a shared experience with whomever took this photograph. The person taking the photograph is smiling and laughing, and Sebastian is in that moment connected to that person. They are having a shared emotional experience, and you don't see this in autism. You want to know what else you don't see? Sebastian, is pointing at the cat. What does that mean? Theory of mind, right? He's pointing at the cat. They're having a shared emotional moment. He recognizes in this moment that what he is feeling and thinking is what the other person is feeling and thinking, and that is not consistent with autism. The coup de grace is him pointing at the cat because he's showing this shared feeling that they're having is because the cat is cute. High functioning or otherwise, I don't care. This is not what you see in a kid with autism. It's all right there now. One picture, Katie. You picked that picture because you thought, well, he looks really cute. And it makes me look like a good mom because I had a happy baby. I'm going to challenge you, Katie. Why can't you show Sebastian happy as a 15-year-old or a 14-year-old? Was this the last happy moment for Sebastian? Before Mr. Crisser came into his life, you allowed him to come into you guys' lives? Is that why you keep going back to Sebastian as a child rather than I've lost my teenage son? Here's what he looks like. Please keep your eyes open and watch for him. This tells me everything I need to know, Katie. Why aren't you showing pictures and videos of Sebastian happy, giggling, laughing as a 15-year-old?
Reminds me of a deer prancing through the woods, you know, enjoying the smell, the breeze, new things. That's my son.
February 25th, the day before Sebastian went missing, Chris was in Memphis at work. So Sebastian and I
Oh, no, Pay attention to that. Made me nauseated when I heard this. Listen to Katie's words.
February 25th, the day before Sebastian went missing, Chris was in Memphis at work.
God dang, Chris. What? Okay, I'll go on America's Most Wanted, but under one condition. You tell them I was in Memphis. I'm not answering any questions about where I was or what I was doing. I was at work in Memphis. Well, your little friend Crabtree, he talks a lot, Chris. A lot. And it seems that you were at your apartment, not in Memphis. It seems that there was a poker game. So my question is, if you're in an apartment in your hometown and Katie and Sebastian are at your little McMansion, why didn't you just go and see them? You said yourself last time you saw them was February the 4th. Why didn't you just go see your family? Crabtree doesn't know.
So Sebastian and I went to Texas Roadhouse. After dinner, right around 9 o'clock, he laid down. I heard a noise in his room. I said, I don't care what you're doing, but you got to knock it off and you got to go to bed. And he answered, yes, ma'am. And I said, okay. And
what happened to love you, mama, love you, puppies?
That was the last time that I spoke with Sebastian. The next morning, when I went in his room, he wasn't in his bed. After a minute or two, when I couldn't find him, I called Chris and I said, I can't find Sebastian. He's not in the house.
Now, question. She's crying in a way that we've not seen before. Oh, I don't know why. Like, why are you crying? You don't cry in these other interviews. In fact, when you're on Queen Bees, you were actually literally laughing it up. And I thought about taking this and breaking it into segments and showing the counter behavior. But then I thought, no, I don't want to get lost. I don't want the point of this to get lost, right? But for those of us that have been really deep into this story, this situation, this disappearance of a 15-year-old kid, we've been here since the very beginning. We remember your behavior on Queen Bees. We remember you laughing or talking about his goofy smile, laughing it up, having fun, telling the story, never crying about this kid being missing. Why now on a national platform where you're showing photographs of an elementary age kid, are you crying like you've lost something dear to you? And I don't mean to come off sounding cold or harsh about this. I really, really don't. I really am trying to understand your motivation. Did you go on this show because you want the help of people to see Sebastian and find him? Is that why you did it? Because look at this picture of Sebastian sitting at this table. Does that kid right there, that was literal hours before he just poofed, in the words of Chris. That's what he looked like. Look at his haircut. Look at the color of his hair. Look at how wide his shoulders are. He's got an Adam's apple. Look at the clear definition of his jaw and chin. This is a kid who is in the process of going through puberty. He is becoming a man. Does that look like the little blonde-headed boy laying on the stairs with the kitty cat? Because that photograph was taken when he was like 7 or 8 years old, before Mr. Chris Sir entered his life to terrorize the shit out of him. So, Katie, I don't want to sound heartless. I have lots of empathy. I'm not understanding what you're doing. You give photographs of a little kid who no longer exists because he has been replaced by a young man. You give no photographs, nothing to say this is what he looked like the day he went missing. This is the kid we are trying to find. You are giving photographs that specifically show you and Chris being loving and Sebastian as a happy person. No one thinks that Sebastian looked happy in this Texas Roadhouse video. No one believes that this is a happy kid. So why exactly are you now crying on America's Most Wanted? Why are you doing that? You've made no appeal to say, this is what my kid looks like today. Help me find him. These are what his glasses are today. Be on the lookout. This is what his hair looks like. You're showing pictures of a small child crying that you've lost your happy little blonde-headed 7-year-old child. Why?
Dinner right around 9 o'clock. You laid down.
Does that look like the same little kid at Texas Roadhouse? It's a mystery.
I heard a noise in his room. I said,
now, as she tries to pull at your heartstrings by manipulating you with these tears that make absolutely no sense, I just want you to keep your eyes on Christopher Proudfoot. Just watch him. This entire, in terms of like behavioral analysis, this entire interview, and I wish that we had the uncut footage. I really wish we did. But we only have what we have because this is network TV and they just cut it up into little blips, right? You don't get to see these prolonged interactions. Watch Chris. Now, this is the guy who's telling people to suck, start a shotgun. This is the man who said to do acts of pedophilia against a quotation mark fat baby. This man right here in the orange shirt and the little squiggy, greasy, comb over Elvis, whatever that is on his balding head. This is the guy who said on a public platform for a female YouTube creator that he doesn't know, that basically inciting gang RAPE against her. This is the guy right here. This him right here. He doesn't look up. He doesn't smile. He is sitting there like this is the last place on earth he ever wants to be. Katie is chattering like a chipmunk. She's doing great. What happened? This is not the couple we all came to know and hate this time last year. Chris Proudfoot, I think, my opinion, he feels that he has been treated unfairly. He stepped up to protect Katie. He probably thought his narcissistic belief that he's a big, tough, strong dude and he has the ability to manipulate and lie and make people think things that are not real, and that Katie was just not capable of doing that. And so, he didn't want her to have to answer for any lies that she might have told. So he tells her last year, you just sit down and shut up and be quiet. Let me handle this. Let the men in the room handle this. And he did that. And we all watched. And we all said, that poor kid having to live in the same house with this monster. Right? Nobody really said much about Katie, even though she was the only one, quotation marks, in the house with Sebastian when he went missing. No one said much about her. It was all about Chris. But notice the things that people say about Chris are directly in relation to his behavior on YouTube. What he has demonstrated in front of the camera or audio recordings. Katie pretty much has been left alone. Have you guys noticed that? So what has happened that now Chris says, nope, I'm done, not protecting you anymore, not speaking for you, not carrying the conversation, you're on your own. And they are not looking at each other. They are not touching each other. They are showing no support, none whatsoever. I don't know about you and your marriage, but I can tell you this. If I start crying anywhere, my husband is going to react. He's going to hold my hand, or he's going to put his hand on my leg, or he's more than likely, he's going to turn to me and say, it's okay. Everything's okay. We'll be okay. Don't worry. Everything's okay. Put his arm around my shoulder, right? Comfort, shared experience. You don't see this with Chris and Katie. No more hands intertwined with bruised knuckles. It's what you wanted, Chris. It's what you said last year. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be the man and protect my family. Now you're going to get angry because people are noticing the worm has turned. I think Chris is upset because he's been treated unfairly. I think Chris is sitting around saying, well, I didn't hurt this kid. Why am I getting attacked by everyone online? Katie is sitting there just pretty as a pea. She doesn't have a care in the world. She wasn't running her mouth for a whole year. She wasn't busy alienating the entire population. She let Chris do that. And I suspect when Chris wasn't looking, Katie was smiling to herself, going, well, this was unexpected, but okay. Suits me just fine if they all think that he's a crazed, violent, angry man that hurt my kid. At least they won't be asking questions about me. Watch Chris Proudfoot in this interview. I'm going to slow it down a little bit, not much, but slow it down just a little bit because it helps to see micro expressions, right? Don't look away from Chris. Not because I think Chris is guilty and all that, because I think this change in their dynamics is fascinating. So watch the micro expressions. Watch whether he's leaning away from her or leaning toward her. More importantly, Notice, is he looking down away from her to his right? Or is he looking down to the left of him? See, right here in this picture, he's down and to the left. He's listening to her. He's not going to look at her. He doesn't want a connection to her. I think they're split up. I really do. They may not be. Maybe they're still living in the same house, but I don't think there's a relationship here. But he's listening to her closely. But there'll be other times that he's going to be looking like he wants to get out the door and get away from her. But it's rare for him to look up at the actual camera.
I don't care what you're doing, but you got to knock it off and you got to go to bed. And he answered,
And then he does
I don't
shake his head in the beginning
I
here.
heard a noise in his room.
Watch.
I said, I don't care what you're doing, but you got to knock it off and you got to go to bed. And he answered, yes, ma'am. And I said, okay. And that was the last time that I spoke with Sebastian. The next morning, when I went in his room, he wasn't in his bed. After a minute or two, when I couldn't find him, I called Chris and I said, I can't find Sebastian. He's not in the house.
I got off work and I had a text message from Sebastian's stepfather.
I said, hey, I don't know how to tell you this, but Sebastian's missing.
I headed.
That's not what was said. Chris has completely changed that part of the story. And I think it's important for me to comment on, and here's why. Because we were all shocked when we heard what Chris said to Seth. When we heard what Christopher said to Seth, we were all perplexed. We thought, what? That is a weird, strange way to start that conversation. If you remember, what he said was, don't be mad. And we all went, what? Like, that's what you say? You're going to call someone and tell them, hey, dude, your kid is missing since midnight last night. You're going to say, okay, Seth, don't get mad. What? Guilty knowledge. Is this what you would say if a kid legit just went missing? Would you be anticipating an angry reaction? I wouldn't. I would be like, okay. Look, it's okay. I know you're going to get upset. Listen, your child is missing, but we've called the cops. Everyone is looking, but we need you to come here. Right? You'd be trying to like calm them, get them grounded, explain what is happening, what's going on, to try to keep them grounded. Don't get mad. Don't get mad. We can't find Sebastian. Don't get mad. We can't find Sebastian. What are you talking about? That was incredibly telling. For example, Christopher Proudfoot, did Seth have a reason to be angry? Exactly what happened that caused Sebastian to disappear, that you think this is going to really make Seth mad? Did Katie get drunk and lose her temper? Did Katie and Sebastian have a physical altercation and he accidentally hit his head? What exactly caused this disappearance that you're thinking in your head, Christopher Proudfoot? Oh, Seth is going to be so pissed off if Seth knew about this. If Seth knew what you did, Katie, he would be furious. Don't get mad. Guilty knowledge. Guilty knowledge. Theory of mind. Now the story changes. Now the story changes. And I just got to ask this question, Chris. Sorry, but I really followed the Barry Morphew case, that Suzanne Morphew went on a bike ride and just went missing. No one believed that story, just like no one believes that Sebastian walked out onto the front door and got zapped by the aliens from Mars. No one believes that, Chris. And no one believed that Suzanne Morphew went on a bike ride and disappeared. Your little performance here, Christopher Proudfoot, is exactly Barry Morphew's performance. And I think that is fascinating. Who can forget Barry Morphew? Oh, Suzanne. Shaking his head left to right. Oh, Suzanne. Whoever has you. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Fast forward, we find Suzanne underneath the carcass of a dead elk, and her body, her bone marrow, is filled with BAM, a tranquilizer sedative that law enforcement or the wildlife and fisheries uses to sedate bears. And that Barry Morphew just happened to have a package of it in his garage. So what? Suzanne got kidnapped by people that just happened to be carrying around BAM, a very specific controlled substance that is only licensed to wildlife and fisheries agents and veterinarians. That specific veterinarians too. Not any veterinarian can qualify to get it. And she's found an hour south of his house in a shallow grave, buried with an elk carcass. That's a weird kind of criminal, right? That's a strange type of rapists, or a strange kind of kidnapper who thinks, hey, I'm going to do my victim in, and I'm going to toss her out on the side of the road, and then I'm going to drive as fast as I can back to Arizona before anyone catches me. No. The person that took Suzanne and put her in a hole with a elk carcass on top of her, that is a wildlife expert. That is the kind of guy that tracks animals. That is a guy that is happier up in the backcountry with wild, feral animals than he is, sitting in the pew of his own church. We know what you did, Barry. And Colorado's coming for you. But for Christopher Proudfoot, isn't it fascinating that he does the exact same behavior as Barry Morphew? I'm telling you, all creatures are the same. We are all the same.
I had a text message from Sebastian's stepfather.
I said, hey, I don't know.
Remember, oh, Suzanne, whoever's got you, and the whole time shaking his head no. And look at Katie for a second here. She's checked out. Katie is dissociated here. She does not want to listen to Christopher Proudfoot speak. She doesn't want to have to sit there within 10 inches of this guy and listen to anything he has to say. Look at her. The minute he starts talking, she's like, she has pulled back, she's internalized, and she's like, just shut up already. You don't even have to watch a video to see it. Look at her eyes, the look on her face. She hates this guy. But remember, Barry Morphew shaking his head. Oh, Suzanne, whoever has you. It's exactly the same. I'm telling you, people that are good at behavioral analysis, you can see it. You can spot it. Watch him.
Not to tell you this, but Sebastian missing.
No, he wasn't. Was he, Chris? Shake your head no, buddy. Sebastian's missing. Shaking his head no. Sebastian is missing.
Hey, I don't know how to tell you this, but Sebastian
is missing. Shaking your head no. Stop. You look silly. And your lips with your new lip filler and your little peach colored lipstick, you look ridiculous.
I headed straight over to their house.
I started driving through the neighborhood. I was panicking. I was looking everywhere. Like, where is he? What happened? Did he go with someone?
All right, Katie. Where is he? Did he go with someone? Katie, is that what you said a year ago? If you think that's what Katie said a year ago, did he go with someone? Put a 1. Or did Katie say, I don't know why he walked out that door and never said a single word about where did he go? Who is he with? Is he being given food? Is he warm? In fact, it took Seth, a man who legitimately did not know where his child was. He legit did not have any idea where Sebastian was, but Seth was thinking those things. Seth was driving to their house and he was going, where would he go? Like, if he leaves the house, could he be in a garage, or maybe, would he have, maybe he's hiding in the woods, maybe? Like, what would he be doing? And the reason that I know that Seth was thinking these things is this. Seth walks into the house and he notices where everyone takes their shoes off. And Sebastian's shoes are there. And his brain goes, uh-oh, hold on a minute. We have an error. I'm sitting here thinking about my son walking around out in the woods or crouched down, hiding in a garage. But why are his shoes here? There is no way that he would walk out into the woods with no shoes on. Why are his shoes here? His shoes are here. And Seth was legitimately confused because it didn't match the reality of the moment. Seeing the shoes was completely different than the image in his head as he's running through different scenarios. Where could Sebastian have gone? Katie never went through that process. Katie and Chris never went through this process of where did Sebastian go? What are the potential places that we could go look? Where would he have gone? They never went through that process, y'all, because they knew where he was. They knew what happened to him. So the shoes were not a mismatch. They knew where he was. And they knew that when they loaded him up into the back into her car and she left the house that morning before law enforcement was called, and she met up with someone to transfer his body to another car, there was no reason for him to be wearing his shoes. He was not walking. So the shoes in the house didn't matter. She didn't even notice them. Remember, confirmation bias. But for Seth, Seth was going, his imagination was running through different scenarios. Sebastian walking down the road, going here. Sebastian walking out into the woods, going there. But as soon as he saw those shoes, he said, wait a minute, that does not confirm what I'm thinking. That actually goes exactly against all of the scenarios in my mind. But for Katie and Chris, they didn't even see the shoes because they knew what happened to Sebastian. So Katie goes on America's Most Wanted, and she, ball-faced, lies. I was just driving around and I was just thinking, who could he be with? Maybe he left with someone. Katie, you're a liar. As far as you ever got this past year was, why did he walk out the door? You never, not once, asked yourself, did he get in the car with someone? Is someone treating him well? Is he in a house? Is he being fed? You never ask those types of questions that every single parent of a missing child absolutely asks themselves. Every single one. Except you, Katie.
Did someone take him? By the time I pulled into the school, Christopher was already telling me to turn around because the authorities were on their way.
Well, that was to cover up her previous statement, wasn't it? And I'm looking for him. And Chris says, all right, he's already, and everybody picked up on that, didn't they, on social media? Everybody. See, all that she's been doing is listening to all of us and modifying her story. But that in and of itself, Katie, reveals you to be inauthentic and a liar. All of these videos, everything you guys have gone out there and said, all of that will be used as evidence in a trial. You changing your stories, it's not helping you, Katie. It's making things worse. You did not say, well, oh, because he already called the authorities. You said that the three of you were on a three-way call to the police. So why does Chris have to tell you, go home? The law enforcement is already on their way. Your time frame that morning, Katie, is screwed. 30 minutes. Katie is unaccounted for. She is in her car and she is unaccounted for. 30 minutes. Someone else was out early that morning driving around. Isn't that strange? Isn't it odd that your kid goes missing, you jump in the car and you head up to the high school, quote unquote, for 30 minutes, what should have been a 4-minute drive, 30 minutes, and at exactly the same time that Katie is panicked and dealing with a missing child, her mother-in-law is out for a little drive as well. Strange, isn't it? And then they went through some very strange activities in the week after, like taking off to Alaska or going for a camping trip at the Yogi Bear campground in Mississippi. These are not things that people with missing loved ones do, Katie. And during the Nancy Grace interview, where you guys are sitting in your camper, Christopher Proudfoot and you contradict directly within that hour alone whether Chris is working or not working, because you were lying. You had no reason to stay in your little mech mansion because there was no chance that Sebastian would be coming home. That's why.
They used helicopters, they used drones, they used ATVs, horseback.
How would he
An
know?
extensive search didn't yield one significant lead or even a glimpse of the boy on any doorbell cam video.
Now, Chris goes through this list of all of these important assets from law enforcement, the town, people. He goes through this list of assets, the horseback, the drone, helicopters, as if to say that all of these things combined together reveals that Katie and Chris are not culpable. When exactly the opposite is true in reality, Chris. If Sebastian had walked out of the house, as you guys stated, calling all of those searchers and dogs and horses, having all of that in action, they would have found him, or at least evidence of him. A kid on the autism spectrum doesn't take off walking in the early morning hours and not a single camera picks them up in a very affluent neighborhood. Chris, all of these things will be used as evidence against you in a court of law. When the attorney is doing closing statements, they will say, you heard from 17 homeowners, all of whom had Ring doorbell cameras, and not a single one picked up Sebastian walking in the early morning hours. That will be used against you in closing arguments, you see. Law enforcement will get up there just like you did, Chris, and we'll go through every single asset that was put in use when they were looking for Sebastian during the search. Every single one. And that will be used to surmise that boy was not out there. He was never out there, or we would have found something. His shoes were at your house. Katie's bullshit explanation about, oh, he was outgrowing everything, so I threw everything away. I threw all his shoes away and had not gotten around to replacing them. That's going to be her defense. I'd love to see that jury's eyes. And then here is something that I think is incredibly interesting about this clip right here. This clip is when they were searching in the landfill. And y'all know, you recognize to do this, there's got to be a reason to get out there and search, right? And everybody naturally said, oh, they're looking for his body. That's not what they were looking for. They had dogs out there, dogs, cadaver dogs and such. They can't search in a trash pile. There's too many. The scent that is there is really, really overwhelming for them. And so they can't discern. You know what they were looking for? They were looking for batteries. They were searching for batteries, the kind of batteries that power your Ring doorbell. Now, why would they be doing that? Oh, because just like in the case of Barry Morphew, there was evidence that Christopher and Katie had taken down their camera system. Just like Barry Morphew. Exactly like Barry Morphew.
Days later, investigators combed through a landfill, still saying they had found nothing.
Oh, look, we actually have a photograph of Sebastian as a 15-year-old. And can I ask you guys this question? Does he look anything at all like the little laughing blonde-headed kid with the kitty cat? Does he look anything like that at all? Katie and Chris, the narcissism that is within you is convincing you that you're going to be able to lie to everyone, including local police. But the reality is there is enough evidence to do a circumstantial case and a jury will vote guilty. You haven't convinced anyone. You've just provided more and more evidence for opening and closing arguments. This is who we're looking for. We're not looking for the cute little blonde-headed laughing child that Sebastian was before Mr. Chris came into his life. And Katie, it was your job to protect Sebastian. It was your job to protect Sebastian way back when you first took that little kid's cats away from him. No man, I don't care who it is more important than your own child. Nobody.
We have nothing. We just have speculations. We get criticized. The father gets criticized. Law enforcement's been criticized.
Online.
This to me is the most
We just
obscene.
have speculations.
We just have speculations. This right here during this part of this interview, this was the most obnoxious part of this. But then it's Christopher Proudfoot, right? We knew there would be some obnoxious mess. We just didn't expect them to get his hair involved. But, you know, literally, they arrive on a national platform with photographs of a child that existed 10 years ago, not last year, because he's grown up into a young man. They show one picture of Sebastian as a 15-year-old. I suspect that it was Seth that gave them those pictures. Chris Proudfoot takes this opportunity to appeal once more to the jury pool. We are not guilty. We did not do anything to hurt Sebastian. You may hear all these YouTubers and TikTokers, you may hear them talking about us and telling stories about us, but I want to use my time on America's Most Wanted to appeal to the jury pool that all of what you are hearing, it's all just speculation. We left no evidence. And Katie shakes her head, yes. It's unbelievable to listen to.
We get criticized. The father gets criticized. Law enforcement's been criticized.
Online sleuths are really analyzing videos and creating their own theories. Sebastian is
That was kind of weird looking.
videos and creating their own. Online sleuths are really analyzing videos and
Oh, I guess that's just how they did their little cut, right?
creating their own theories. Sebastian is putting something in his and online sleuths are really analyzing videos and creating their.
That is very strange, isn't it?
Online sleuths are really analyzing.
Okay, so they're pulling in
videos and
he's coming from like the back of the car. He's not coming, and he's got his ears covered up. Makes me wonder if Katie was screaming at him before they went into Texas Roadhouse. Strange.
Creating their own theories.
Sebastian is putting something in his pocket.
Surveillance footage from a neighbor shows two people outside of Sebastian.
Now, y'all remember when all this first came out, Chris, in his all-knowing, omnisciently powerful way, smiled like a I don't know, maybe like a patient father. He smiles at the camera like he's exuding a lot of patience for the stupid among us. And he says, look, look, I want it to be flashlights. We all want it to be flashlights, but it's not. It's just some trash trucks. That's all it is. It's not flashlights. And he actually got another YouTuber involved in this. Gray Hughes used his computer work to prove to the community that it was trash trucks. And now we know that law enforcement knows it wasn't trash trucks. It was flashlights. They came from the Proudfoot home, and there was a car waiting. This is a case that can be prosecuted successfully. They do have the evidence.
His house that night, something happened.
Yes, it did.
Tonight marks 1 year since Sebastian Rogers disappeared near Beach High School in Sumner County.
My life is not the same without my son. He's not here. And he's
Now you've got to ask yourself, they use a little clip of a YouTuber saying something happened that took up valuable seconds, right? Why didn't they just not have the YouTuber at all and show us a clip of the grieving mother? Like they show the father. They show Seth appealing, give me back my child. But why didn't they show us some heartbreaking footage of Katie in grief? Yeah, because they didn't get it, did they? They don't have the clip to give. Because she's thriving.
somewhere. Someone has him.
This is hilarious.
Someone has him.
Okay. This is great. And I cannot, we watch Seth and he is devastated, right? You can just, it is hard to listen to Seth and not feel a deep, deep, deep sense of sadness. He is so lost. He is so confused. He doesn't care about anything except what happened to my son. I just need information. Now they pan over to mommy, and I guess we're going to see mommy grieving, right? We're going to see mom's appeal. I need my baby. I feel so directionless without my child. Please let us have him back. Please, I'll do anything. Well, nope. Instead, we have two people standing in a kitchen that hate one another. Chris has got his hand on this little toy tank, which he is literally going to turn toward Katie as if the tank is about to shoot Katie. He won't look up. He won't look at Katie. He keeps his head down nearly this entire interview, other than occasionally to look at the interviewer and answer a question. But there is nothing between these two people. And I think Chris blames Katie. Chris is angry with Katie, and Katie is over it. She don't give a damn about nothing, about no one. She wants out of that recording studio so she can go back to thriving and living her best life. She's doing great for her year of firsts. They got their little toy crane. But watch this body language. It's incredible. This is incredible, especially after just seeing Seth in just the most intense level of sadness and confusion. And the producers choose, you watch Seth, you're just torn up about what this man is going through, right? And the producers follow with this clip? Come on. You really believe that America's Most Wanted featured Sebastian because they think it's a big mystery what happened to him? Look at the clip they chose to follow Seth's appeal for his missing child. And watch Chris turn this tank toward Katie as if to shoot her. You can't make this up. This is the most self-unaware man known to mankind. It is incredible. Watch this body language. She looks away. And look at where, oh my God. She turns completely away as he turns his head even further to the right than it originally was. These two hate one another. Hate. I'm telling you, this is, I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it firsthand. It is the craziest thing that Chris, why did you do this? Like, why did you allow yourself to be put in this situation? You can't even look up. You can't. Why did you do this? Do you have any idea what this is going to look like in front of the jury? Like, sincerely, this is a disaster of epic proportions. He doesn't even know what to do with his hand. He takes this little tank, and they told him to, right? They said, just we've placed these items here to represent Sebastian. They got a baseball glove. Well, nobody's ever said the boy played baseball. He's got a baseball glove. He's got this little tank. He's got this crane, right? He's a 15-year-old. What? Anyway, so we're just going to put his toys out here. And then you guys just like touch them and look at them as if you're being nostalgic, right? And what does Chris do? Chris takes the tank and points it at Katie. What a disaster. But after he turns the tank toward Katie and she looks away from him, because she noticed. She saw him do it and was like, damn, I hate this guy. He goes to remove his hand from the tank, but he doesn't know whether he can or not. They've told him, just put your hand up there, pretend like you're playing with the stuff, look sad, look nostalgic. And this is what they came up with. Dude, you guys suck, man. You can't even pretend to miss this boy. Watch his hand. It's hilarious. Up. Wow. Look at his face when he does it. He is going, Chris is thinking to himself, I look like an idiot. He says, they made me look stupider than I already look. What's Katie doing? Let's keep an eye on Katie for a minute. Katie's better at pretending. Everything in Katie's being is telling her to turn away from Chris, and everything in Chris's being is saying, turn away from Katie. That's a hell of a moment right there. Drive the tank and point at Katie and then look away. Amazing. Truly, truly, truly amazing. It's incredible. It's just like this slow moving train wreck that they have going on. And that's what happens when you think you're smarter than the rest of the world and you think that you're going to get away with some, terrible stuff. Again, we're back to little blonde-headed Sebastian with the kitty cat, right? And then she sort of pushes the picture of Sebastian in an older age. Yeah, Katie's totally been watching our channels. She knows that she screwed up big time on Fox and Friends when all she took to Fox and Friends were baby pictures. This is the one picture that Katie shows that Sebastian was older. And I think Seth brought the other picture of Sebastian as a 15-year-old.
This year has been the worst nightmare I could have imagined come alive.
Just wants whoever has him, just coming back. It's my son.
And those bags under his eyes, the redness, these are not like things that you can just like pretend. This is a man who's not sleeping. Katie, on the other hand, is looking great. Her eyes are sparkling. Her hair is nice and shiny and healthy. Chris has got his little Elvis comb over trying to hide his, thinning hair. Got lip injections. I swear, Chris, you let them turn you into a clown, buddy. What were you thinking? Why don't you just be yourself? Quit trying to present yourself as something you're not. It's amazing.
Wow, that dad. You can feel it. So we want to talk about theories now, Payne, and what might have happened with Sebastian. What are your thoughts?
I mean, here's his house. They searched miles outside of that neighborhood for days.
Now, we'll look at that house where he draws.
Here's his house.
He's making a point here, okay? He draws around the house to show you Sebastian walking away that morning. He's not walking off into the damn woods. Their house is in the center of this neighborhood, a very, very, very affluent neighborhood where people tend to buy security systems with cameras because they don't want their stuff to go missing. No one caught this boy walking, but we did get the cameras in the middle of, not cameras, flashlights in the middle of the night and a car waiting in the dark. They're making a point here. They can't go on national TV and say somebody did something to that kid in his house. They can't do that. But a picture is worth 1,000 words. Look at the picture. That's your reality.
Miles outside of that neighborhood for days. Helicopters on the ground. They even drained a lake. He's nowhere. I don't think.
Just like Seth said, Payne, he is somewhere. He's nowhere accidentally, right? When people accidentally wander off, get lost, pass away, you find those people. They're not covered up. It's when someone intentionally doesn't want that wandering person to be found. That's when you don't ever find anything. Like Suzanne Morphew in the bottom of a shallow grave with an elk carcass on top of her. That was someone in the know that wanted to obscure her decaying scent, who wanted people to be dismissive of, oh, look, there's bones. It's just an elk carcass. Don't worry about those bones.
Sebastian would have gone outside on his own. There's someone else involved here. Somebody who was familiar to him, but a stranger to everyone else. We also.
That's Payne saying, don't come for me. I'm not blaming the parents. Who else? Who else, Payne? Who else was involved? No one. Absolutely no one.
You have to consider he could have left on his own volition. We know children on the autism spectrum tend to wander.
Okay, you are wrong about that. There are some who are elopement. They will leave school or they'll wander away from their parents. It's a very specific subgroup. You have another equally large group, though, that rarely stray out of their normal routine. I know some kids that walk in their house and head straight to their room, and they don't leave their room until the next morning to go back to school. There's some kids equally as bound in safety than in being unaware and walking away. Sebastian was neither.
According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, nearly half of all children on the autism spectrum will go missing at some point.
And that is up to age 12. If they have not engaged in elopement up to age 12, they're unlikely to become elopers after age 12. That is not Sebastian. He did not do that. Now, the statistic that he failed to discuss is the fact that a large percentage, it's 40 something percent, I can't remember exactly now, they are the victims of interpersonal violence in the home. Kids on the spectrum are more likely than any other disability, any other child, neurotypical or not, they are generally the kids that experience family violence. Why didn't he bring you that statistic?
Point from their environment.
Wow.
But I think something caused him to flee his home. Was that
I mean, Chris Proudfoot would make me flee my own home, okay? He's a aggressive, loud, obnoxious kind of a person. And if I had to stay in the same house with him for more than 24 hours, I would be going crazy. I can't live with all that chaos and that angry energy. Where did he go? There's cameras everywhere. You say he walked away? Where did he go without the cameras picking him up?
To the open arms of a predator?
Why didn't the dogs pick up his scent? Why wasn't he wearing his shoes? What do you mean into the open arms of a predator? There is literally not one speck of evidence that this kid ever walked outside of his house. But what did we learn from the disappearance of Gannon Stout? His stepmother put his body into a suitcase into the back end of her car while the cops were in the house. She drove him away from the house. She deposited him into a ditch and covered it up with a piece of plywood. She drove back to her house to continue to engage in the search for this little kid. And then a couple of days later, she went back and retrieved him and transferred him to another location. Sebastian did not walk anywhere. The dogs would have found it.
Or was there a roaming predator that just happened to see Sebastian walking down through the neighborhood?
And to me, one thing that stands out is his shoes. He always wore his shoes according to his mom.
Yeah. She shared a story that as a younger boy,
Elizabeth Smart is completely wrong. Mom did not share that story, Elizabeth. That story was told by Seth more than a year ago on a news interview. So if Katie told you this story in preparation for America's Most Wanted, you have been lied to by Katie Proudfoot. In fact, in the days after Seth said this on an interview, Katie denounced the story and said it was untrue. So Elizabeth, are you a little upset that Katie has now involved you in her lies?
he walked through a pile of dirt, turned out to be a bed of fire ants, and he had a thing about always wearing his socks and shoes. I can't think that a 15-year-old child would get up in the middle of the night and leave without his shoes. In February, it's cold. So for me, that says that someone has come and taken him, or someone else is involved. Someone knows something. And as easy as it is to be like, oh, that could never happen, like your bedroom is the safest place in the world. Well, no, bedrooms are not the safest place in the world. I was taken from my bedroom.
And that was a very clear case of your dad hired a vagrant. Your dad hired a man with schizophrenia, with religious delusions, and brought him into his home around his little girls. That is a dramatically different situation happening at the Proudfoot home. Chris doesn't want anyone around his home.
It can happen to anyone.
Yeah.
Hell, Bobby said that most people didn't even know that there was a kid living in that house. She was unaware that the old elderly people that had originally owned the home, that they had even moved and sold the house. They didn't even know those people were where they lived. It's not true, Elizabeth. You're absolutely wrong about this.
So when you consider what you just said, Elizabeth, and according to Katie, that night she goes to bed, he goes to bed, then around 10 p.m. there's a bump or a thud. She calls out to him. He says, I'm fine. Yes, ma'am. I'll stop moving. And then that's the end of it. And according to her, when she went to bed, the doors were locked. And when she woke up, the doors were locked. Were the windows locked?
Yes, the windows were locked. And there is a camera across the street that would have shown anyone crawling into Sebastian's window.
Big question. Were they secure? Because if they weren't, could mean one of two things. That thud, him responding.
No, they were secure.
So I do want to bring up this home security camera footage. This looks like foot traffic right in here.
Yeah, if you look at the footage here, you can see subject number 1 allegedly, right? It looks like something that's illuminated, which, by the way, we haven't mentioned it yet. According to Katie, there was a flashlight that Sebastian liked using that was missing. So you consider that, it does look like two people holding flashlights.
Yes, that paints a picture.
Two people leaving exactly the Proudfoot home, only one flashlight returns. And that's that. All right. So that is the end of this live. Where did my... There we go. All right. That is the end of this live. And I did want to do this to be a little more streamlined and not do, any kind of, humorous stuff afterwards. Because this is a really shocking, terrible moment that we watch America's Most Wanted and we walk away feeling like, wow, this looks as bad as it could possibly look. And it is my opinion, that if this district attorney wanted to, or let me say it better, because I'm not saying anything bad against district attorney. If the district attorney gets ready, when he feels like he's ready, I think they will absolutely be able to do a circumstantial case and get a guilty verdict. Maybe not so much with Chris, but definitely with Katie. And Chris, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The person who goes to the district attorney first and says, I'm ready to tell the truth and I want a deal, that's going to be the person who gets the deal, not the one who waits and tries to prove themselves innocent. So, Chris, if you legit did not have anything to do with what happened to Sebastian, if your role was to try to protect your wife and try to hide what happened, if I were you, I would be going to the district attorney today, right now, as we speak. Serenity, thank you so much, my friend. She said last time I spoke to him, she said nothing about it being the last time she saw him, right? It sort of makes you wonder, last time she spoke to Sebastian, was he in the truck with Chris? Was she at home alone? Is that why there was that long phone call? It's very curious, Serenity. Very good statement. Yep, absolutely. All right, everybody. I hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful day. And the Karen Reed show, well, it's in full swing again this morning. So I will talk to you later.
Yeah. And I burned that channel. Sinister grifters with a snake oil grin, voracious virtue signalers cashing in. False PIs, they're fixing the game, pointing fingers, but they're all the same. Innocent creators, moms with a cause, digging through the chaos, exposing the flaws. We're hunting for clues, untwisting the lies. Who's driving this shit show straight to demise? Convertibles roaring, cliffs in sight, like Thelma and Louise on a forever ride. They sail into YouTube fame, the crash is in sight. We're all on the ride, no brakes, no trust. Popularity is the spark that'll burn their channels into dust. Or it'll burn their channels into dust. Dust. Spark that'll burn their channels into dust. Spark that'll burn their channels into dust. It's in the dust. That'll burn their channels. It's in the dust. That'll burn their channels. What's in the dust? The dust. The dust. The dust. The dust. The dust. We're all on the ride, no brakes, no trust. Popularity is the spark that'll burn their channels into dust. Dust.